Hey, welcome back. We're going to talk about polishing your metal today. And remember, polishing is what happens after you have finished your emery work. 400, 600, 800, and 1,000, and gotten rid of all of your deeper scratches. The polishing puts a shine to your surface. It just buffs those scratches out. So the polishing motor in front of me has two stations. You have a cloth wheel that you're going to be putting some polish compound on. The on-off button is over here on the right of the machines, and this is the pre-polish. To the right of us is the final polish. The pre-polish is a little rougher grit, and the final polish is a finer grit. So in terms of safety, really important to remember this because this is a powerful motor. So we're going to start with making sure the vent fans are on, and remember the vent fans are those 3 dials that are by the entrance to the classroom. The next thing you want to make sure is your hair's tied back, safety glasses on. Remember, safety first, always, always, always. And if you have any scarves or you have a tie on, make sure to get those out of the way, because once this motor is on, if anything gets caught in this spindle right here, you do not physically have the time to get out of that. It just catches and goes. When this is on, if your hands touch this cloth wheel, that is just going to create some friction. It's not going to do any damage to your skin. Hair tied back, glasses on, vents on, loose clothing removed, and then I'm going to go ahead and put an apron on, and that just protects my clothing from the greasy substance that you're going to put on this, the polishing compound that goes on the wheel. The last and probably one of the most important things is you're going to make sure to protect your fingers from the heat created by the friction. So I grabbed a couple of finger collets which live on top of the polishing motors, and I picked 4 of them. I want to protect at least my forefingers and my thumbs. If these collets feel a little bulky, so you want to, when you're working with the machine, you want a good grip with one hand, and you're going to brace on here. If these feel a little bulky to you and you can't see your work, that's a safety hazard. If your work's smaller, you would probably want to choose putting on some of this, which is pre-wrap. And there's usually a roll of this somewhere around the polishing machines. If not, just let me know and I get some out. It is kind of self-adhesive, so you'd want to just cut a 2 to 3 inch segment on here. I find it easier to cut all 4 of those before you start and put them on your fingers. And you're just going to wrap them around your finger. So forefinger, I pull the extra to the front because the pads of your fingers are what's holding your metal. These are reusable, so when you're done with this, you can pop them off and put them in your box and use them again the next time. So I'm going to wrap both hands. If you find that the heat is too much, sensitivity, you've got sensitive skin, you can go ahead and wrap them twice. So put another layer on here and just squish them on itself, and you're ready to go. So in terms of setting up, you're going to stand right in front of your polishing motor. If there's a lot of stuff under here, you want to clear that away, so get a fresh piece of paper. You would be cleaning this up when you're finished, so hopefully that was left for you without any polishing compound in it. So we're going to work with this. This is a trickier piece to polish. Once I turn that motor on, it's going to spin towards me. So it's really important that anything I'm working, if I'm polishing this area right here, I want to make sure that that area, those edges, are kind of centered on that wheel and the points are facing down. If I put this up against a wheel that's turning towards me this way, it's going to rip it and grab it and spit it out, and that can cause some damage to your skin and damage to the piece. So points down, lower quadrant of the wheel, solid grip with your hand, circular motion, moving that around, all the while when you first start this, paying attention to the pressure. Too much pressure against this wheel and it's going to want to catch the metal and pull it out of your grip. Not enough pressure and you're going to stand here forever and not polish your metal. So somewhere in between there, and it just takes some practice. So I'm ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my motor on. Again, I'm going to work with this part of my piece right here. Solid grip. And then I'm going to use my right hand to support it underneath where it's meeting the wheel. Little circles. If I get too far under, it can catch it. If I get too far up here, it can catch it. So easy does it when you're first learning. On a piece like this, I'd suggest to go ahead and polish the middle before you do the edges, because that's the easy part. So it's going to grab it. So I want to make sure the face of that stays up against the wheel. I don't tilt it too much that way. I don't tilt it too much that way. Little teeny circles. I'm polishing the bottom edges of what's facing down. And you'll see the difference between the surfaces, between the emery and the polish right there. You'll notice there's some black compound on that, and that's just the polish. For this pre-polish, we use Fabuluster, so about every couple of minutes, you're going to add that onto the wheel, and that's all you need. Common mistake is to over-add polish on that, and then it just gets really lumpy. Let's go ahead and take a look at this guy right here. I'm going to do small circular motions, good grip, support underneath. This is a little trickier because it's bigger, so the form of it right here gets caught on that lip. So I may want to come in and polish this way. I can polish on the edge of the wheel if I want, if that's easier. Outside edge as well. But here's what can happen on this one. If I turn this too low and catch the edge of that, it's going to pull it out of my grip. So I want to make sure that I'm polishing the bottom part of that. Again, if that wheel hits my skin, it's just going to cause some heat. It's not going to cause any damage unless I hold it on there. You do not want to get anything caught on the spindle in between the wheel and the motor. Little teeny circles. This piece has been roll mill textured before, so I'm just going to do a real light polish on the top of it to put a shine on there. If I over polish any texture, I can remove that texture, so I want to be careful about that. Once I am finished with my polishing, turn off my wheel. No one else is using it on the other side of me. I'm going to wait until that stops. My metal piece is cooling down. I'm going to take this and I'm going to dump it in the trash, and then back in with no goobers on it. And then I'm going to take my piece, and again, I had mentioned before that there's this black polishing compound still left on here. You don't want to take your finger cullets off yet because your piece could still be hot. So you're going to take that over to the sink and rinse it off with warm soapy water. The soapy water in the warm dissolves that compound, and then you can check to see if you hit all your areas for the polish. If you didn't, come on back and polish some more. If you did, you're ready to move on to the pre-polish. You're going to see some splotchy shininess, but it should have buffed out most of your 1000 scratches. If you don't have that shininess on it in certain areas, go back and repolish those areas. Once you clean it and move on to the final polisher, you're looking for a really consistent, shiny surface with the final polish. Now on the final polisher, you're going to be adding a compound that looks like this. It's called Red Rouge. Operates the same way. It just helps that friction create that polish against there, or that high, shiny surface. Now if you have a piece that's this size, it's pretty challenging to get it up against this. Also, if you have bent wire or bent formed surfaces, that can catch a lot easier than a straight flat surface. So this would probably be a good candidate for using the buffing wheel on the Foredom, which is just a miniature version of this. This is the same thing. This little guy is really small, really hard to get a good grip on this and polish, so I would use the Foredom for your smaller pieces, or any wire pieces. Or any chain, because that stuff gets caught in there and it just becomes a safety issue. On, off, make sure your surface is clean. If you lose control, regroup, turn it off, go back to center right here, make sure your vent fans are on, hair's tied back, safety glasses, apron to protect your clothing, make sure it's tied in back, and until next time, bye-bye.